Welcome back to Step by Step, a podcast brought to you by Palmetto Conservatory of Dance. Our guest for today is Evan Ambrose. He is a guest artist with Palmetto Conservatory of Dance, and he's a new guest artist with Columbia Classical Ballet. Hello, Evan.
Hi, very excited to be here, back in Columbia again.
We're so happy to have you here. This is, of course, being pre-recorded before we launch, but Evan is just here for Cinderella, our performances tomorrow, and we have dress rehearsal tonight. So very tight schedule, but we're so grateful that you're able to make it.
Anything for you, Antonia.
Oh,
truly.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm currently based in Huntsville, Alabama. I just moved back there. I'm teaching at my first dance studio ever there. So it's been a really nice full circle moment this year. And this is my third time in Columbia. I came and I did Aladdin with the school in, when was that, 23, I believe?
Yeah.
23, and then I was able to come back and do The Wizard of Oz in 24, and then now Cinderella with the company. So it's been really nice to be able to come over and guest with you guys.
All of the Simone classics, for sure.
Simone classics, truly, yeah.
That's awesome. And I guess I just want to start asking you, how has been your experience with Palmetto Conservatory? How have you felt? And of course, how has it been also now guesting for Columbia Classical?
It's been an amazing experience. Brianna and I have been friends for, I guess, 8-9 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's been amazing to watch her grow up, not only as a dancer and an artist, but she's a phenomenal teacher too. And just watching the kids grow each time I come back has been an amazing experience. And working with Simone has been awesome. And some of the company members from Columbia Classical have taken part in the productions as well. So it's been nice to be able to make those connections and new friends.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, I'm so happy. I just met Evan 2023 when he was here for Aladdin. And it's so funny because we talk about this all the time, and I feel like we sound like crazy people, but the energy, you feel people's energy
for sure
in the studio. The energy that Evan brings to the studio is just something very shiny, very happy.
Thank you so much.
So,
thank you.
Me not being a morning person at 10 a.m., seeing your face here yesterday, I was like, okay, we're good. We're good to go.
I feel the same way. I feel the same way about Antonia. We stand at the bar together in the mornings
that's right.
company class. So it's great way to start the day.
And you probably can't tell, but Evan is almost 1 foot taller than me. So that's a funny thought.
Are you 5'4"?
I'm 5'2".
Oh my gosh.
Now let's touch base a little bit on how is it being a guest artist. I'm sure you haven't been a guest artist your whole career. So what made you do that change? What are some of the difference that you can point out?
Being a guest artist, yeah, I guess you're right. I never really thought about it. But I started doing that when I was up in school in Philly at the Rock School for Dance Education. One of my first guesting gigs was with Ballet Theater of Scranton. I would go in and do their Nutcracker.
Nice.
Couple of years. I want to say it was 3-4 years that me and my friend Selena Knowlton went in and did that. So I love it. I think especially whenever you have a good connection with the partner, it is just so much fun. It's kind of like a work vacation in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's been great coming here to do this. This is truly one of my favorite places to come and do it, just because Bria and I have that connection.
That's awesome. How do you adapt to the different work environments? Not only because they're different studios. I mean, when we're here all the time and you have a home studio, you like the floor, you have your spot at the bar. How do you adapt to those things?
Great question. I think I don't necessarily think about the space as much, rather than, say, example, like the style, like it's super Vaganova here. And I famously was trained Balanchine. So it's just like little nuances and everything, and like what Simone expects and in class and everything. So I appreciate the differences in that. And it's nice to, you know, pick up little things from all of these little places and carry it with me for my future performances and endeavors.
That's so interesting to hear. And it's very interesting too, because we were at the bar the other day and you just asked me something. And it was kind of like technique question, like, does the head go here? And I look there. And I was like, yeah. And I don't know. I haven't met a lot of guest artists with the company because most of them just stay for a longer period. But we're so grateful that you feel that you can ask questions, you know, that it's not, oh, you don't know the style. So sorry.
It's very welcoming and very warming. Everybody, you know, like, head this way. They've really helped me pick up on the style here.
And it shows the care. It shows I'm trying to adapt to y'all. I come with my energy and my knowledge, but I'm trying to adapt to whatever you do every day. So it's awesome to see.
Thank you.
What role as a guest artist has marked your guesting career? That you're like, this is one for the books. It doesn't have to be here, but one that you just, it's memorable.
That's tough. Memorable. There's two. Can I have two? Doing Nutcracker with Ballet Theater of Scranton and my friend Selena Knowlton. That was just always such a magical experience. Similar setup that I kind of have here with the Taylor family. Just very, you know, we have personal relationships outside, which makes the magic inside the studio and on the stage so much better. And Wizard of Oz this past year was just amazing, an amazing experience, because it was my second year back, and just seeing the growth from the students and being able to continue my partnership with Brianna on the stage. I feel like we were able to grow a lot together, which was beautiful.
Thank you. And kind of moving into that teaching aspect, for us, you come and you guest, but you teach as well. We've had the pleasure. I've actually had the pleasure to take Evan's ballet class, but what was it? Jazz funk and heels class. So that's amazing. How do you manage, or what made you like also pursue the teaching in multiple different styles?
Well, fun fact, I actually, when I started dancing, when I was like 16, 17, I wanted to be like a jazz hip hop dancer.
Nice,
so I started at like a competition studio. And I guess that was kind of my first love, was that style of movement. And I've always loved that, been very close to my heart. So I guess making that transition into just strictly ballet at 18, I always carried that with me, and I've always loved to teach as well, because teaching's where the money's at. Teaching, yes, truly, and yeah. So I guess I've always kept that with me throughout, you know, this ballet career that I've been lucky enough to have.
And I guess I'm going to flip one of my first questions. How do you deal with teaching students that are not necessarily trained in the same technique as you were?
Great question. I think that, like, in the class, it should be, you should be able to ask questions. You should be able to communicate like what they do on a daily basis. I taught the pre-pro level on Monday. And it's just interesting to like pick up on like little technique things, like, you know, passe back rather than just passe side like I do. So I guess it's just truly just having an open conversation with the students within the class. Yeah.
Nice. And I have to say, personally, as a professional taking your class, there's so many things. Well, we're talking about this when you came. I had one or two classes when I was in school that were balancing based. And going back to those, you remember so many things that just work in a different technique. And not all of it has to work in one single book. So it's always good. And I say this as a teacher, but as a dancer as well. It's always good to have a different teacher, a different technique, so that you can play with what works for you and one arm and one hit and all of that.
Absolutely. I think it's important to have those different types of teachers and styles because that makes the most well-rounded dancer. If you think about it, I mean, any company, you have choreographers, you have teachers that are from all over. So I guess nowadays, being within the industry, you kind of have to be able to do it all in a way.
Yeah, that's so true. Is there any style of dance that you think it's particularly challenging to teach?
I think contemporary, because there's so many different branches of it. You know, you have your neoclassical, your contemporary ballet, you have your angsty rolling on the floor, which I love. So I guess contemporary would be the hardest, I would say, just because there's so many different genres within that genre. And movement is, you know, in my opinion, like the number one thing that makes up the contemporary dancer, and everybody has a different voice per se, which is like their movement style. So it's challenging, but also as a teacher teaching that class, I think it's beautiful to watch the students. And then it also helps you grow as a teacher. So I'd say that's the most challenging, but one of the most rewarding as well.
That makes sense. And you kind of took me to my next question. How has teaching shaped you as a dancer? What have you learned from your students or just from the teaching experience when you go back to dancing?
Great question. I think watching and once again having that open conversation like with your students, and there's times like when I'll teach like a combo or something, and like I had a student in Huntsville, her name's Marie Catherine, beautiful dancer, and she was like improvising before a combo that we did, and I was like, let's do that. Like, absolutely. So it's just, you know, kind of like a collaboration almost. And I think that that's beautiful because then it's not just my piece or that, it's everything coming together. If that makes sense.
And when it comes to being a guest, you kind of have to adapt. I mean, yes, you can build your own schedule, but you have to adapt to all these schedules of everybody that you have guests with before. How do you balance your normal life, your day-to-day life, with having to fit all these schools, all these gigs around you?
It's been a challenge in the beginning, and still even so now, because like with every different production, there's going to be a different schedule. So for Cinderella, I got here on Monday. We rehearsed 2 days in the studio, theater today, 2 shows Thursday, Friday. So this is like a lot more condensed of a project and a show. So Simone was kind enough to send me a big chunk of my videos. So down in Alabama, I would go in the mornings, 3 or 4 times a week, give myself class, and then kind of start picking away at the choreography. But I feel like that's been kind of my mold that I've been using. So it's a lot of homework. But it's not really homework because I love to dance. So anytime that I could get in the studio, free time before teaching, I try to utilize that. And like I'll send Brianna videos and Simone videos. Like, do you have any tips, tricks? Like, how is this looking? Just so I can be as prepared as I can be whenever I show up to guesting.
That makes sense. And we can see it. I mean, nobody just hops here and gets a full-length ballet done with no study. Like, Evan comes here, and this is the 3rd time that you come, and you already know pretty much the whole set of the ballet.
Thank you.
Which I'm sure, I mean, we're grateful for it, but I'm sure Simone is as well, because it's just adding one piece to the puzzle. Somebody actually from the company told me this in one of the rehearsals this week. They were like, oh, that's the piece that was missing in the puzzle. And it just makes way more sense, even if you've been dancing the core work for a month. So that is fantastic.
I feel the same way, because a lot of it, like, you know, I have so many partners in the ball during that first section.
Oh my God,
but yesterday, just doing it with people, you know, and just having like the full cast, it's like, you can take a breath. Like,
Right.
it makes sense.
That makes sense. And you were talking about doing your homework and studying on your own. How do you find this, or what technique do you have, if any, for self-motivation? Because you're pretty much, when you're freelance, you're on your own with a lot of different families, but on your own at times. How do you find that self-motivation?
I think it's, for me personally, I like to almost over prepare in a sense. It can be challenging, but at the end of the day, it's the work that you put into it, and you don't have anybody to blame for yourself, if that makes sense. So that's really, really motivating to me. And I guess, yeah, final answer. Yeah, it's the work that you put into it yourself. Yeah.
Has there been any like specific challenges that you can point out since you've been a guest artist around?
I guess the only thing would be maybe like a parada, just because like you're dancing with somebody else and not necessarily being able to rehearse that hands-on would be a little challenging. But for that, I just watch over and over and over and try to get as familiar with the music. And I also like, I'll mark, both parts of the parada if I, really am stressing, really pressed for time on that. I did that with one of the pause in that second act of Cinderella. So,
yeah, I was about to ask, because partnering, it's very complicated. I mean, no partner is just like the other.
Yeah.
You won't find two partners that are the same. In preparing for that, it's very challenging. And partnering for men, and if you don't know about dance, you can hop on the YouTube video and just look at how paradas and ballet work. It's so much posing. The guys still have to pose in a way that you can showcase your dancer, but of course be there as well. If you're completely behind your partner, nobody will really remember you. And in like Cinderella, for example, you need the prince for there to be a princess. So it's that balance. Is there anything that you do aside of marking both parts in terms of partnering to make it easier for yourself?
I go to the gym a lot. I like to lift. I do try to do 4 or 5 times a week.
Nice.
Just to keep the strength. Lots of like overhead pressing, lots of like cross training in that regard as well. So that always makes it a little easier. It's harder with a new partner. I like to have at least like 2 weeks when I go in for a guesting with that, but coming in and doing, like with Brianna or with my friend Selena, that's sometimes you just click with them, and like the rhythm and the breath and everything is the same. So yeah, I guess that's a great way to put it. It's kind of like snowflakes. No two are the same.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And you mentioned the gym. How do you keep up with your physical health? Because I mean, dancing is very tough on the body. We've talked about taping feet, toes, everything
She's
around.
so great at it. She's an angel. She will always tape my toe or my ankle when I need. So very grateful for that.
Always here for you. But how do you take care of your physical health and also your mental health? I mean, we've spoke a little bit about that already. But how do you keep up with your self-care?
I think it's, first off, not overworking, not overdoing it. I think that there's a fine line. I think in school, a lot of the times, since the schedule is just class, and then rehearsals and stuff, and then transitioning into getting older and the joints and everything. It's just learning how to like work a different kind of way. So just getting the flow of that with each different guesting on like, what does my body need? How can I recover? I love to strap on like some compression boots and everything like at the end of the night, always icing, and just really listening to the body. I think Obviously pushing and always working hard, but if something's hurting, then for sure listen to that, and obviously nourishing the body well, of course. And then mentally, I think it's important to, at like a certain point, especially like when performances are happening, to let your brain know when to turn off, and just, it happened, whether it was good, bad, beautiful, ugly, no matter if you fell, anything.
Right.
I think it's, you can't go back, you can't change the past. So just knowing when to let the brain rest is super important also, which is hard, much easier said than done. And that's also taken lots of practice too.
Right.
But it's part of being a human.
And going into the show, do you have any pre-show ritual, anything that you like to do every show? If you can disclose it,
absolutely.
of course.
Absolutely. A Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee and a blueberry donut.
Nice.
Classic. That is that is the secret for me.
That's awesome.
Sweet treat, a little bit of caffeine. I feel like I've done that since the beginning. It's always been a Dunkin' iced coffee and a donut.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That sounds right for Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, not sponsored yet.
That's so funny. And looking ahead, I mean, you're still very young, and we are excited to have you again as many times as you wish to come to Colombia. But looking ahead, what are your goals, both like a dancer and a teacher?
Goals. I have been teaching a lot more, I guess, the past 2 years, and I've really, really been enjoying that. So it's been nice to kind of shift a little bit more of my energy towards that, while also still performing, and then coming here and being able to do both. It's perfect situation. So I guess just continuing to keep this balance. And I feel I'm very happy with where both of those things are at. So if they could stay put for just a little bit, that would be my ideal situation.
That's awesome. So is there any advice that you would give to dancers that are not only trying to pursue a professional career in dance, but maybe that also want to teach, or that they're in a school finishing their training and they may not be fit for a company, an official company, but they want to dance and freelance? What would be your advice for them?
I would say keep training, of course, in the studio, setting up and sending out emails for really any gig starting out. I think that's the greatest way to get work, is to, you got to start somewhere. You can't really be too picky, I would say. Beggars can't be choosers. And then I would also say having a stable job outside of the dance work and the dance freelance. That's also been really helpful for my own sanity and my process of going through that as well. But just keep pushing, keep working. You go through dry spells just like any other career.
Right.
But just taking that time to, in those dry spells, sending out emails, focusing on new goals, and how to get to the next step. So that would be my advice.
That's awesome. Now you give advice to the dancers. If you could go back in time and advise your younger self anything, and it could be 5 years ago or 20, what would you advise yourself, your younger self?
Be nice to yourself and trust the process. Yeah, don't be too hard, because at the end of the day, it's just dancing. It's supposed to be celebrated. And just trusting the process again, because Rome wasn't built in a day. A variation's not going to be perfect after you just learned it. And you're going to be your biggest supporter. So if that's not happening, who's going to do it for you? Exactly. So that'd be my best advice. Just staying sweet and kind to yourself.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
And I mean, I would love to keep asking you so many questions, but I'm kind of going to end with our step-by-step question.
Okay.
What is your favorite dance step? It doesn't have to be ballet. It can, but it can be anything under the sun.
Can I have two?
Yes, of course.
Okay. In I guess like the classical realm, there is nothing more I love than a renversé.
Nice. Okay.
It's so dramatic. It's so dramatic.
That's so true.
And I think they're so beautiful, and I get to do a lot of them. And
that's what I was thinking too. Simone has something for renversés. It's not her favorite dance step. I'm gonna tell you that.
Is it really?
It's not. But she puts it in any choreography. Any. Which is lovely for men, for women. So
yeah, and I mean, right it's like you said. It's anyone can make it look beautiful, and I just think it's so passionate and so emotional.
Yeah.
I can't even explain it. It's just in my body doing it. It feels really nice.
Nice.
And then I guess it's not really a step, but I love floor work, whether it be nice. Jazz funk, contemporary. Any style. I think there's something so special about being connected with the floor. Because I mean, essentially that's like our instrument, the push and pull at it all. So renversé and floor work.
Nice. One very up and one very down. I love it. Thank you for being with us. I'm so excited that we got to do this. Can't wait to be in dress rehearsal in just a couple hours. But thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Antonia. Appreciate you.